I always struggle with how exactly to begin when it comes to a video that pertains to esports. I say almost every time, it's no secret that I despise the current state of esports, or esports is infested with disingenuous bad faith actors, scammers, and fraudulent organizations, but that gets old really fast when there is a new event practically every day where teams are cheating, failing to pay their players, stealing, breaking laws, and whatever else. I mean, honestly, I don't know what I'm expecting when you get a bunch of, young 20s, late teens gamers and then give them a whole bunch of money from people with zero accountability and let them have social constructs where they have power. I mean, there's no other way it's going to go. It runs very deep, and yes, I must acknowledge that there are some teams out there doing things right. 100 Thieves, Cloud9, Fnatic, Liquid, TSM. These are all examples, and there are many more, of organizations that seemingly operate with reputable business ethics and a relatively intact moral compass. However, the rotting underbelly of esports contains far more than it should, and not just smaller groups scavenging for scraps, huge companies that are pushing forward every day with less than ethical tactics. The subject this time around is TheScore Esports. TheScore is a multi-million-dollar esports production company, I believe. I didn't dig into their financials very deep, it mostly felt irrelevant to the topic for today, but they are also a YouTube production company with over 1 million subscribers, which is no small thing. Now, TheScore as an entity is a full team producing content daily, and this content garners millions and millions of views every month, and it can be seen all around the gaming space on pretty much every social media platform. When I say millions, I mean over 20 million views in the month of March this year. That is almost 10 times larger than my own channel, under normal circumstances easily equating to thousands of dollars per day, and that is just from YouTube ad revenue, let alone sponsorships and all the other different avenues of monetization. And one of the top performers, they are one of the top performers in the entire gaming industry when you look at a percentage breakdown of all creators. Basically, TheScore Esports is huge, has a team, has resources, and also has verifiable success. So what's this video about? Well, about a year ago, a creator by the name Slosh created a video called Summit1G Quit Fortnite and Everything Changed. This was soon after, go figure, Summit1G had quit Fortnite practically at peak popularity because he was totally sick of the gameplay experience, and the video dove into the topic of why he quit, how it affected him, and how it changed Twitch itself in the aftermath when his Sea of Thieves broadcasts became a top focal point on the entire platform. This video itself garnered a little over 3 million views and was extremely successful. It was solid work, and as a side note, I myself remember watching this back in the day when it was being promoted by the YouTube algorithm. I never consciously registered who the creator was, nor lingered on his work further, but it was a well-conceived concept and rightly garnered a lot of attention. Like 3 million views is no small thing for one individual video. Enough so that sitting here covering events right now, I fully remember having watched it. I'm going to link to Slosh's channel down below, seeing as he is the most affected party here and also deserves credit for the original work. Now, why does this relate to TheScore Esports? The answer is simple. A couple of days ago, TheScore produced this video titled How Playing Whatever the F He Wanted Made Summit the King of Twitch. And this material is a lockstep replica of the content that Slosh had produced 1 year prior. This is where we get into the issue of what is and is not malicious plagiarism. As an example, right now, I'm about to cover some very similar points to what Slosh did in his own response, which went live a matter of hours ago. I watched that response, it largely resulted in me deciding to cover this for myself, and there will be huge similarities between the two videos. However, there is a difference between natural similarities underpinned by actual backlinking and reference to the original source, and stolen concepts or stolen talking points and composition. Another example would be current gaming events or news. It's no secret that there is a tremendous amount of overlap between gaming commentary channel videos. Something big happens and quite a few channels discuss it. That's natural and unavoidable. It's always going to happen. To go further, when a large event happens in gaming, there will be topic and word overlap as well. For instance, if Fortnite has a new seasonal event or something like that, lots of people will cover that new content and use very similar wording. If a new game comes out with a huge flaw in it, a lot of reviewers will discuss that flaw in similar ways. And the list of examples is endless because some overlap in coverage is always expected. However, when a video is produced that covers a current event at the time, garners over 3 million views, and then a full year later a massive channel posts a nearly identical video about that very same topic, it breaks a lot of the links in the chain that holds up the concept of reasonable similarity. Here are some compared segments that Slosh produced in his own response, which show just how similar the talking points, order, and even the verbiage are.
Haven't already guessed, I'm obviously talking about Fortnite. The game dominated 2018, and whether they were for it or not, most big streamers felt compelled to play it.
Fortnite was a global phenomenon. The game was everywhere, including Twitch, and everybody wanted to watch it, so Summit obliged.
Now, at the time, Summit was playing the game and his stream was doing great, but there was a problem. As the weeks went on and he had to keep playing the game, he got sick of it fast. Like, really sick of it.
There's gotta be a different fucking way for me to make it in the Twitch world than go down this fucking Fortnite line, man. It's the most boring shit on the fucking planet, dude. How do you guys like this game so fucking much?
But he quickly grew tired of the game. What started out as enjoyment turned into a mind-numbing chore to appease viewers, one that tore at his sanity.
There's gotta be a different fucking way for me to make it in the Twitch world than go down this Fortnite line, man. It's the most boring shit on the fucking planet, dude. How do you guys like this game so fucking much?
And this led to a lot of problems for him, because it turned streaming into a chore. He grew tired of the Battle Royale genre in its entirety.
But for a while, that dream felt like a nightmare to him. A nightmare fueled by one cartoony Battle Royale.
And eventually it got to him and his mental health deteriorated, culminating in him taking time away from streaming.
Eventually, Summit said screw it and took a break from streaming.
After some time off, he returned to streaming, but this time it was with a new priority in mind.
And when he returned, he brought with him a new mindset.
He forewent his ego and the revenue that he could be making, and instead decided to focus on his mental health, do what makes him happy. So he started playing games that he wanted to play, not caring about how unpopular they might be.
He was done sacrificing his mental health for viewership, done chasing the next flavor of the month. Summit was going to play the games he wanted to play, not just the ones that brought the most views.
But here's where things get interesting. In late November, following the release of a new expansion, he started regularly playing the game Sea of Thieves.
And this type of variety streaming brought Summit back to a game everyone thought was dead. Lured back into the game after an update, Summit revived Sea of Thieves on Twitch with his funny antics.
At first, his viewership didn't really change all that much, but something happened and it was obvious to anybody that was tuning into his stream. He was having so much fun playing the game that it made his stream a joy to watch.
Those streams started with decent viewership and they just kept growing. Everyone wanted to see what kind of naval trouble Summit was going to get into that day.
Within a month of him playing Sea of Thieves, his viewership more than doubled. He was having a great time with Sea of Thieves and growing his channel rapidly as he did it.
Whether he's fragging out in shooters or playing less popular titles, Summit's playing what he wants to play, and viewers love it.
That's already a tremendous amount of overlap here, and it is made even more obvious by the fact that one has been produced a full year after the other, while the first video was extremely popular and successful while likely being seen by the Score Esports production team themselves. But to go further, we can expand on that assumption. Slosh also goes in depth on a previous instance where a Dr. Disrespect documentary the Score had produced 1 year prior held, yet again, extremely similar points to his own documentary that had come out beforehand. Within that video, the Score actually credited a clip that Slosh had used, but making this whole thing exponentially more suspect, they had credited his name attached to a clip that had nothing to do with Dr. Disrespect, but instead had been found by Slosh in order to underline a totally separate point. Basically, Slosh found a clip of some random events on YouTube to use in his own documentary for his own particular individual point, and then the Score took that clip as if it related to Dr. Disrespect, adding courtesy of Slosh to the bottom corner, without even realizing that his clip had nothing to do with their own content or with Dr. Disrespect, and simultaneously outing themselves as being aware of and actively watching Slosh's content. This makes things a lot more complicated. The Score is obviously aware of what Slosh does, and has been for over a year. In a roundabout way, many of us in gaming are in the same boat as them, seeing as some of Slosh's videos are extremely popular and show up in the recommended tab quite frequently, even when we don't subscribe directly to his channel. However, after a lengthy period of time, they then produce a video which is a near carbon copy of Slosh's own material, well and truly after the events took place, which copies with eerily similar accuracy his talking points, his exact clips that he used, the order in which they appear, and even the actual phrasing at times. To round out this analysis, I actually reached out to Slosh directly and asked if he had a past script or outline from his Summit video. Turns out he did, and I went through listening to the Score's video while referencing his outline, and the comparison is far more similar than I expected. And I firmly believe that if you reverse engineered an outline from Slosh's video after watching it, one that was at all similar to what he shared with me, and then used it to produce your own video in a haphazardly rushed fashion, it would probably be exactly what we see posted by TheScore Esports. This, on top of the fact that they had previously cited, inaccurately I might add, material from one of his past documentaries as it related to their own as well, and confirmed that they are well and truly aware of his content, and it becomes increasingly difficult to chalk this up as some sort of coincidence, but there's more. Turns out, the Score has had past run-ins with the topic of plagiarism and stolen content. A couple of years ago, an independent journalist by the name Cyan came forward who claimed that the Score had taken an article he himself had researched, interviewed, and written to passingly mention him one single time, also inaccurately and by the wrong tag, while then posting the entirety of his interview drawing identical conclusions as if they were their own. Now, this one is a bit interesting because written journalistic works are often used by myself and many other creators for the purpose of criticism, commentary, and other material. I will frequently show on-screen excerpts from articles, but I'll make sure that I am using that material in its own segment for my own analysis and purpose, while also showing flat out what site it's on and who wrote it with direct visual footage of the article. However, that's not what TheScore Esports did. Instead, they passingly mentioned this journalist while then nearly copy-pasting his entire piece into their own posted article, and this undoubtedly cheapens the overall value and results of Cyan's initial efforts. This chain of events concluded when TheScore Esports sent an email to Cyan, which Cyan claims said they were totally in the right with their own article and stand by the coverage, but would be editing some quotes because there was an over-reliance on them. Well, if we look back at the archives, the new version, as opposed to their original article, which was basically copy-pasted, is wildly different. On the one hand, the initial article was over 700 words, while the edited version is barely 400. That's over a 40% decrease in the amount of content the write-up even contained. And this type of content overhaul does not occur when a company stands by their initial coverage. This type of monumental edit happens when they need to fundamentally change how the article is read and comes across. Here's the thing though, what we are seeing might just be the tip of the iceberg. There are often comments on the Score's videos which indicate viewer deja vu or a similar phenomenon. In fact, a great number of comments relating to Slosh himself were saying things like, "Didn't you produce this same video a year ago?" Not even realizing that it was an entirely different creator who had made it. And with that sort of familiarity popping up so frequently, who's to say there are not more examples of this replication? The Score attempted to tie this topic relating to Summit 1G into the current popularity of Valorant, which is quite literally the only discrepancy when compared to Slosh's own video from a year ago, but that serves little purpose as a defense and almost hurts them even more, because Valorant is not necessarily an example of Summit playing whatever the F he wants. It is a highly incentivized new release with drops facilitated by Riot, similar to CSGO in subject matter, that is exceptionally popular right now, leading to sky-high viewership for Summit independent from his own enjoyment. Summit would be playing Valorant anyways, there is no doubt about that, but somehow the Score adapted a year-old concept which pertained to Sea of Thieves to include Valorant, and it doesn't even relate. But at the end of the day, I really can't 100% be sure. We know for a fact that the Score watched Slosh's videos in the past, that they even took a small clip from his content that had nothing to do with anything and used it in their own Dr. Disrespect biography as if it related to something having to do with Dr. Disrespect. We know that the talking points, order, execution, language, and framing of their Summit 1G video is practically identical to Slosh, and we know that they edited a 700-word essay to 400 words after being accused of very similar behavior in a written article a year ago. But still, even with all those things, it might be a big old coincidence. I can't definitively say. If you have any information, past videos, or whatever it is that seem too similar or anything of the like, my direct messages are always open on Twitter. My email is listed there as well if you want to send one through that platform, and maybe we can get to the bottom of why so many viewers feel a sense of, wait a second, haven't I seen this before when watching their uploads? For a company making as much money as they do, with a social reach that broad and a fully developed team at their disposal each and every day, I find it to be just a little bit too similar. That's it though. If you want support, check out the links down below. There's a few different profiles for those creators I mentioned in this video and stuff like merch or Patreon, Twitter, etc., but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching and have a nice night.